So you've probably clicked on this video because you're wondering what in the hell a metacall even is. A metacall is a deck that has a solid matchup against some of the best decks while also being one of the elite rogue decks with a high winning percentage. So I wanted to touch on those, but first I had to touch on some of the top decks so that we know what we're even angling against. I think obviously Dragon Link is probably very near the top, if not the top deck, simply because it's so defined. LP didn't get touched. And the Dragon Link deck really has no bricks, high attack, high defense, and high versatility, which is unheard of, really. But then when you move down the list, I think Virtual World is still going to be pretty high. I think obviously with Eldritch and Dino being pretty much solved, whether you're playing the Zoo version of Eldritch, the Dogmatica version of Eldritch, or you're mixing in Dragoon inside of that deck, that's really solid. Obviously, you know about Dino. And then the Bird Up deck is also pretty defined, where you really can't improve it too much. But then you go down the list, and there's some other decks like Shadal's that are also very defined, and then True Draco coming back into the fold. With that out of the way, we got to talk about these elite decks, and obviously I'm going to leave some out. So let me know what you think should be at least on this list, and let's get into it. So we've established pretty much exactly what a metacall even means. Let's talk about the decks. Buster Blader is the first deck I wanted to talk about. It will be on the page, I promise you. Shout out to Tim. He will be on the page. But Buster Blader is a really, really powerful deck, but it sometimes uses an engine, whether you've seen it inside of Eldritch, you've seen it mixed with Dogmatica. It's its own deck, and it always can mix with a lot of stuff, even Virtual World. Trust me, I have a combo coming at the start of next week. It's literally possible, and I'm not joking. But seriously, getting back to the point, Buster Blader is a really, really powerful deck. Everybody knows the basics of the lock and your opponent basically being unable to play, turning everything to defense, and everything that you possess that is a monster is no more, and it cannot activate. It's literally turned to defense, and then it gets trampled. And if you're playing Dragon Link, you're screwed. I'm just calling it what it is. I've watched somebody get attacked for 12,000. It's really that powerful. What people don't know about Buster Blader is it has a high ceiling and as far as versatility is concerned, but it still wants to do the same thing over and over and over again. However, getting there is really, really different, and that's why it has so many variants. And I still can't figure out, is it an engine? Is it a deck? I think it's a little bit of both, and it just depends on what you really like, especially when you mix it with a deck like Eldritch. Next up, I want to talk about Prank Kids. The Link 1 really facilitated a lot. I mean, Prank Kids is a popular deck, period, but the Link 1 definitely facilitated a lot because it allowed you to not have to always open multiple names or 3-card combos to be able to play the deck. You can basically open one and then get to a Link 2 easily just off of opening a Prank Kid. Now, obviously, if you get hand trapped, you're going to be hurting a little bit, but that's why you play cards like Called by the Grave and Instant Fusion inside of the deck, because Instant Fusion is multifaceted, whether you're summoning the Rocket Ride or the other one, I forget the damn thing's name, but literally Instant Fusion is really, really powerful in this deck, and for that basic reason, with that, as well as some of the more convoluted plays, whether it's the double Raigeki play, where the Link 1 can basically be used as fodder to be able to Raigeki your opponent and then Raigeki them again. And then the Link 4 being the Harpy's Feather Duster. Prank Kids can just do a lot, as well as when in time, whenever actual events really come back into play like that. I really don't feel like remote duels should ever have a time issue, but you know, this is the Yu-Gi-Oh community we're talking about, so I'm pretty sure it still comes up, but it's just not quite the same when you have 50-minute rounds and it's online, etc., etc. Don't let that get too far ahead of you. Guru is the next deck, and with Guru, everybody knows how the deck works in unison. All of the cards work in unison. All of them have a high winning percentage. You can actually look at all of these on YGO Scope. I think with the exception of Buster Blader for some reason doesn't show up all of the time, but most of the time it actually does. But seriously, with Subterror, it has a powerful ability to use all the cards in its archetype in the engine flawlessly. It's a lot like Orchist, except a hell of a lot more simple. But the way that all of the cards work, whether it's Fiendish with Guru, whether it's Hidden City with the Guru itself, whether it's the Fiendish bringing something back onto the field, whether it's having Subterror Guru mixed with Archer on the field and then being able to book your opponent as a quick effect, and then Archer can shuffle it back. The trap can flip cards up or flip it down, or cause your negation to be unaffected by, you know, if they try to call by the grave you, on the Fiendus, and then you can chain the trap card to block it, and Subterror cards can't be negated. I mean, literally, Subterror can roll and snowball, and then you're gonna get rolled completely out of the game. And that's why a lot of people hate the deck, but Guru is a really, really powerful meta call for the simple fact that if it wins the dice roll and somebody knows how to play it efficiently, it's not that hard, it's not rocket science, but knows how to use all of the cards in unison like that, as well as just floodgate the living hell out of you, I'm telling you, this is a really, really powerful deck that you should really give consideration if you don't want to play any of the meta. Paleozoic is the interesting one to me. It's slowly been coming back, especially with the Link 2 that's going to come out. But I think another card got revealed the other day. I actually couldn't find it as I was making this video, but I'll try to drop it down in the comments, at least a link or something. But what people don't really know is that, well, I guess people know. I would hope that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players can figure stuff out, like all of the traps when they're face up on the field in the monster zones are unaffected by monster effects. Therefore, really, really powerful cards like Dragoon and Zeus don't matter to Paleo. Although it does matter to Paleo because it's really hard to deal with. You could still kaiju a Dragoon and you'll still be good. And in Zeus, you're totally unaffected by it as long as they're in monster form, so to speak. What people also don't realize is that your own Zeus and your own Paleos are unaffected by your own Zeus. And that's something that is also something to think about. And then obviously everybody knows the power level is totally awesome and its high winning percentage, but the rest of the archetype all works together. Although there are a few issues as far as consistency sometimes and ability to mount offense, Paleozoic is still a very, very powerful choice if you're not trying to play any of the meta decks. And last but not least, one of my favorite decks, and will also be on the page in the coming days, Infernoid. Infernoid is an extraordinarily powerful deck. Everybody knows about the power of the trap card, Void Feast. Everybody knows about the power of the spell card, the fusion spell card, Void Imagination. But the thing is that not everybody always knows exactly what to do versus the deck. A lot of people don't know to not touch their extra deck or try to slowly but surely win the game over, not leave too many monsters hanging face up on the field that are from the extra deck. But also people don't know a lot about not letting layer resolve, etc., etc. There's a lot of stuff within the archetype, whether it's the Deviati being able to heavy storm you, the Anunsu being able to dark hole you, and then both of the other effects of the monsters, one being a dark bribe and Anunsu that banishes a spell or trap when it's activated, and Deviati negating a monster effect and banishing it, as well as all of the smaller ones, a Tondale being able to attack twice like BLS, the Saitsumas being able to banish another card, and then Decatron's overall power level, and then the Equimax OTK that's usually in the extra deck, and the ability to go first or second because of the trap and the fusion. It's just a really solid choice, and a lot of people that play the deck have been playing it for an extraordinarily long period of time, including me. Although I do enjoy Drytron, I also enjoy Infernoid, so I've still been playing Infernoids a lot, and it is really good in this meta right now. So hopefully these 5, obviously I left a lot off of this list. Hopefully these 5 are decks that you might enjoy playing if you didn't want to play any of the meta decks. But all of these options are very, very good options, especially for beginner players. I think all of these for beginner players, with the exception of, I think Prank Kids is a little complicated for a newer player. But I think the rest of these are really, really easy to figure out. Buster Blader can be a little bit more convoluted, but all of them have a decent teaching base that I feel like new players could really learn something from. And then if you just don't want to play any of the new decks, these are just some decks to look over. If you feel I missed one, if you disagree with the list, if you feel like there's one that's better than the one on this list, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you next time. I appreciate you for tuning in. I am out. YG baby!